Hello and welcome to the UK edition of Lights Out, your virtual campfire. I'm your hostess with the mostest ghosties, Sylvia Schultz. You heard right. In the next several episodes, we're going across the pond to visit haunted places in England and Scotland. I have some great stuff to share with you in upcoming shows. You don't even need a passport. Just sit back and enjoy the stories as we go lights out. We're going to start with a visit to Hampton Court Palace. This magnificent complex of buildings started off as a country house, but Cardinal Thomas Wolsey, Lord Chancellor to Henry VIII, wanted more. He intended to build a home where he could entertain the king in style. In fact, Wolsey did such a good job creating Hampton Court Palace that the king eventually took it from him. By the 1530s, the palace was Henry's domain. He used Hampton Court to demonstrate the power and opulence of his reign. He held lavish banquets in the Great Hall, attended church in the palace's chapel, and entertained royal and noble visitors in grand style. The kitchens churned out 1,600 meals a day, keeping the king and his court fed. The massive palace suited Henry's robust personality, and he brought all 6 of his wives here. These walls saw tragedy as well as celebration. Henry's 3rd wife, Jane Seymour, gave birth to Edward VI on October 12, 1537, in her rooms, and died there a few days later. Henry was overjoyed that he at last had a male heir, but he was also devastated at the death of his queen. He adored Jane and mourned her sudden loss. Jane Seymour is the only one of Henry's 6 wives to be buried beside him in the royal tomb at Windsor Castle. Jane herself has never gotten over the trauma of her death either. She haunts a now little-used staircase called the Silver Stick Stairs, which once led up to the room in which she gave birth, then died from complications. She appears as a pale, misty figure on the anniversary of Edward's birth. She is sometimes heard to moan, "Where is my heart?" Jane Seymour is not the only ghost to haunt Hampton Court. Just on the other side of the wall from Jane's staircase is a much grander set of steps that is haunted by the ghost of Lady Jane Grey, who wanders up and down the wide staircase carrying a candle. This is now known as the Queen's Staircase. The 2 queens are joined at that regal residence by another of Henry's queens, his 5th wife, Catherine Howard. We'll take a quick aside here before I get to Catherine's story. Did you know that there is an easy way to remember the fates of Henry's wives? Not their names necessarily. I can never remember without looking it up. But the mnemonic divorced, beheaded, died, divorced, beheaded, survived is a handy guide. Catherine Howard, being number 5, gets the designation beheaded. While Jane's spirit is silent for the most part, Catherine's ghost reenacts the terror of the first few moments after her arrest at Hampton Court. Catherine was just a teenager when she caught the eye of Henry VIII, and he was over 30 years older. Henry was besotted with her, calling her his rose without a thorn, for a while. But Catherine, having had no idea that she would someday be Queen of England, had had previous relationships, including a dalliance with Francis Derham. And at court she had not only Henry's attention, but that of Thomas Culpeper, who was aggressive in his clandestine pursuit of her. In the summer of 1541, Catherine and Thomas began an affair. At some point that summer, Catherine wrote a letter to Culpeper that would reflect very badly on her. She wrote, "It makes my heart die to think that I cannot be always in your company." She signed the letter, "Yours as long as life endures." Sadly, she didn't know how prophetic that sign-off would prove to be. Now, Culpeper was a known sexual predator who had until then escaped punishment because of his favor with the king. So Catherine's declarations of love might have been just that, or Catherine may have been trying to appease an aggressive, dangerous lover. Whatever the reason behind the letter, it proved to be the downfall of both Catherine and Thomas. Thomas Culpeper and Francis Derham were both executed for their interest in the young queen, and Catherine herself, only 18 or 19 years old, was beheaded at the Tower of London on February 13, 1542. She was buried the same day, without a funeral, in the chapel of St. Peter ad Vincula. She joined her unlucky predecessor, Anne Boleyn, who was also buried there. The two women, in addition to being the two wives of Henry's who were executed, share another commonality. They were cousins. Catherine Howard was also second cousin to Jane Seymour. Catherine Howard is said to haunt Hampton Court. As a matter of fact, the corridor along which she is said to run screaming is called the Haunted Gallery. Ghost lore has it that when Catherine was arrested, she managed to break free from her captors and made for the gallery, hoping to find Henry on his way to Mass in the chapel to beg his forgiveness. The gallery is easily the most haunted part of Hampton Court, with more ghostly sightings reported here than in many other parts of the palace. But not all of Hampton Court dates from the Tudor era. Part of it is from a later period, the time of King William III and Queen Caroline. The Queen suffered from ill health at the end of her life, and she did not have an easy time of it. In November 1737, she was suffering from a herniated bowel. Basically, part of her large intestine was poking out through the wall of her stomach. Instead of doing the sensible thing, pushing the intestine back inside and sewing up the hole, Caroline's doctors just cut off that part of her bowels. This created a stench just as bad as you think it would. Plus, it destroyed her digestive system. The Queen was not unaware of the odor that suffused her, so she had rose water liberally splashed around to try and mask the smell of her rotting intestines. Nowadays, Queen Caroline's bedroom and bathroom are haunted by the smell of roses. I wandered happily around the huge palace, talking to guides and asking them if they'd had any paranormal experiences working there. To my delight, some of them had stories to tell.
Where they started to build this, the Georgians, because they were going to knock the whole thing down.
Okay.
Oh, and thank God they ran out of money. So, so they couldn't do it. That's the reason the two palaces are connected together like that. They wanted to make it like Versailles. They were going to knock it all down and make a giant Versailles, because he wanted to make It bigger than obviously France. But he ran out of money. Thank
So it would have been over
So
here.
this is Wolsey's part, is it? And that's Henry's section, is it? This.
Well, sort of. I mean, slowly. I think ripped him all out, knocked him all out of it. All of this, and up there. Oh no, there. I'm looking the wrong way around. That's where Jane Seymour died, on that second floor there.
Oh.
Yeah, you can't go in there now, sadly. They were talking about trying to get it open, but of course COVID happened.
Oh, yeah.
But that's where it is.
The shot on the first floor there, in that room.
Yes. That's where she died after she had little Edward.
Yeah.
That's a sad one, isn't it, really? After all that. But he'd look out of the windows here, apparently, to look at the clock. That's what we've been told, because he'd want to see lots of strange things, but the tide is one of the important ones to him.
Oh, gosh.
It does the tide too, but I don't know how it does it for the river, so he knows that you can go up to Greenwich or wherever he wanted to go.
Oh, wow. That's neat.
That lady can tell you all about the clock, but to be honest, you can have a look and see through.
We're standing in the haunted gallery at Hampton Court, and I am going to go in search of a guide and see if they have any more stories to tell.
Stairs, and then through one of these green doors here,
just like that little area where the people are just now.
Yeah.
Just to the right of that, that's the silver slit stairs. So is it for the ghost kind of vibe?
Yeah. Is it,
That's
which one is it? Is it Jane Seymour?
Yeah, it's Jane
Jane
Seymour.
with a lighted candle.
Yeah, so up those stairs, just directly to the left. Again, unfortunately, you can't go up, but that's where the Jane Seymour room is. So it's where she died. I've been in it before. The reason it's not open is just because it's like now designed to be a training space, but they do still have the fireplace. And yeah, as you said, they see her walking about in that area.
Okay. Have you had any weird experiences here?
Yeah, I think we very much kind of try and kind of go off of the whole Tudor haunted area, which is fine. But for most of the staff, if we've ever experienced anything, it's honestly more in William III's apartments in the Georgian story.
Oh.
So, for instance, like this area here, I was working a late night once. We were doing like a wedding or something, and I was standing in this gallery, and this door just closed by itself. And there was a visitor that was with me, and we both watched it close completely by itself. There was no one near it, and I joked like, "Oh, this gallery is supposed to be haunted," and I tried to open the door, and I couldn't get it open. And I tried the visitor tried as well, and we had to call someone from out here to come and open it from the outside because it was like locked. So that's happened there before. That's also happened to me in William III's apartments as well. I was in there in the dark once for like about 5-10 minutes with the doors. Like they just kind of do a lock thing, which is very odd. They shouldn't be able to do that. So that's spooky. And in the Georgian story, a lot of people smell roses. Particularly, they're not open today, unfortunately, but in Queen Caroline's private apartments, she just had very bad health. And towards the end of her kind of life, she would spend a lot of time in the bathroom, which was very unusual for the time. People didn't really bathe, but she would always use rose-scented bathing. And a lot of the time, I've been in there before where visitors will come up and say, "Lovely smell of roses in here today." But there's nothing in there that is supposed to make it smell of roses. It's just a case of sometimes the odd person will smell it, which is kind of unusual.
Oh my! And we can see that room.
You can't, but you can see her bedroom. It's en route to those rooms, but you can see William III's apartment. So down here, that's the area that I said about the door. It's literally this door here that I can't get open. And you can see William III's apartments as well. So that's just down the stairs through the doors, and then to the left you'll see another set of doors.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. You found the silver stick stairs with the ghost of Lady Jane Grey.
When they do the Halloween thing, it's really quite creepy because they use that over there, and you can see her down the bottom of the stairs over there screaming, saying, "I want my heart," because you know her heart's supposed to be in the chapel.
Oh my!
Yeah, they say they took her heart out. This is what they say, and buried it in the chapel up, at the altar.
Oh.
Yeah, but obviously they're together in Hampton Court. Have you seen it? You go on YouTube, you can actually see somebody took a photo of it in the Victorian days of all the coffins.
Oh wow!
There's him, one of the babies of Mary, I think it is, or Anne, isn't it? One of her babies, and Charles the First.
Oh,
they're all in the same plot or the same part. It's really good. I love looking on YouTube for all the history things. You'd be amazed how much you can see that you're not allowed to see, to go to.
Would you tell the story about the guy on the ladder again, please?
Oh yeah, I don't know where it was exactly, but he was washing one of the windows here, and she told me this when I was volunteering a couple of weeks ago in Bushy House, and apparently he was cleaning quite happily, and all of a sudden he fell down, and they said, "You all right?" And he said, "Yeah, it was the shock." He said, "I just saw somebody in a rocking chair, didn't think nothing of it, and as I was looking, I realised the chair, the rocking part, was underneath the floorboard." And he said, all of a sudden he just realised that he'd seen a ghost. When they went up there, there's nothing there. But the floorboards apparently were put higher, so it was built higher up. So she was on the original one that was, I don't know when, and
Right.
Oh, there's lots of stories in here, but it's a shame somebody doesn't do it. Now and again they do a tour and they tell you all the ghost stories of different places. But of course it's near October.
Oh.
Yes. And then October is really funny when they do the Halloween thing here, but it's more of a comical thing. If you know what I mean.
I see.
Yeah, it's not. But if you get the guide ones, they will tell you lots. So look out for it because they do it. It's quite interesting. But it's
I will be doing
October.
other things across the pond in October.
But yeah, this is where we definitely were up there.
Are we headed in the right direction for Queen Caroline's apartments?
Well, technically no, because you'll come along here and then you'll go underneath and you'll end up back by the staircase you started at. So if you want to go to the Queen's apartments have you done Henry VIII's Great Hall? Right, so you need to be back at the staircase. You know when you finished Henry VIII, you were on the marble staircase, the Queen's staircase. That's where the Georgian story starts, and you carry on off that way, and that's Queen Caroline's rooms. Okay, so when you finish here, you get back to the staircase, and then if you just go left into the middle courtyard, and then edge yourself into the middle, not the one with the astronomical clock on, not that arch, but the arch that's the other side of it, opposite, with GR above it, go in there, and that's the staircase. So you are at the moment, you're down the side here. Okay. So
Thank you very much.
Out of curiosity, have you had any ghostly experiences here?
Me personally, no. However, I do, some of my colleagues have. And all sorts of things that they tell me about. I personally haven't, for example, quite recently in the Haunted Gallery, I don't know if you've been past it. Stand back, please, children. Stand back. That's it. In the Haunted Gallery, quite recently, one of my colleagues said the chapel doors for the top of the chapel were closed, and when the services are finished, they come and tell us to open the doors. They come up from inside the chapel, and then we open the doors. And she said somebody banged on it, so she opened it, thinking I'm about to open it, but there was nobody there. So, and this is somebody who's very sort of down to earth and not given to this sort of thing. She said the door sort of went bang with quite a push, and she opened them, and that was it.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
That's okay. Yeah.
The four queens are not the only spirits who wander around Hampton Court. England has a very cool custom in which people close to the royal family are granted grace and favor apartments. Some of these are at the Tower of London, and just how freaking cool would that be to live there? The Fountain Courtyard, one of several courtyards at the palace, is overlooked by these apartments. And from the windows of one of these rooms, someone looked out and saw the ghostly figures of two cavaliers. In the 1880s, workmen digging in the cloister uncovered the skeletons of two men. We'll never know their story. They are just two more of the spirits that roam the halls of Hampton Court. Barry Pomeroy Castle is in ruins today, but the castle ramparts still stand. And it is here that one of the ghost stories of the castle has its resolution. But let's back up just a bit. There are two ghost stories that have their origins in this castle, which stands on a limestone outcrop overlooking a deep wooded valley. Barry Pomeroy Castle is haunted by two ghostly figures, a white lady and a blue lady. Over the century, these two spirits have gotten a bit blurred together, but here are their stories. The blue lady is said to be the daughter of a Norman lord. She wanders the castle mourning the loss of her baby. The child had been sired by her own father, so she killed it soon after it was born. The white lady's story is just as gruesome. The white lady is thought to be the ghost of Margaret Pomeroy. The young, pretty Margaret fell in love with a nobleman, and so did her sister Eleanor. The jealous Eleanor wanted this man for herself, so she locked Margaret in the dungeon of one of the castle's towers. Poor forgotten Margaret starved to death in the darkness. Now her ghost walks the ramparts of the castle, beckoning to people. It's a deadly mistake to go to her and see what she wants. Even to see her ghost is an omen of certain death. Barry Pomeroy Castle, what's left of it, is open for tours. The self-guided tour is very cool. You get a little gadget about the size of an iPod, and when you point this doohickey at a sensor on one of the plaques displayed around the castle, you're treated to actors explaining life and death in the castle.
Good day to you. I am Dr. Walter Farker, and I have had first-hand experience of the ghostly inhabitants of this castle. Now, This tower is haunted by the dreaded White Lady, the ghost of Margaret Pomeroy, who, it is said, had the misfortune to fall in love with the same man as her jealous sister Eleanor. Eleanor imprisoned Margaret in this basement, and it was here that she met her grisly end. Look around you and imagine the awful damp.
Eleanor, forgive me. I beg you.
And the dark.
Oh, shall I never be free of this place? Please, release me.
And the scuttling of the rats as the dying woman lay here.
What is to become of me? Surely Eleanor won't leave me here until I die?
A sad and forlorn prisoner in her own home. Now her ghostly presence can sometimes be seen in this tower and on the ramparts, and woe betide the poor wretch who sees her, for it means certain death.
What I found very cool about this place is that the owners of the castle are keenly conscious of the wildlife that has chosen to make the ruins their home. In the gatehouse that later became a chapel, there is a bat's nest. The bat's droppings were damaging the centuries-old fresco on the wall. Rather than eradicate the bats, the owners protected the fresco by putting a board like a lintel across the top of it. When the bats decide on their own to leave, the board will be taken down, and work will begin on restoring the fresco. Thanks so much for joining me for a look at two of the most haunted castles in England. In the next episode, we're going to spend a bit of time in the Victoria and Albert Museum in London. The V&A is home to two haunted artifacts. I'll tell you all about them both the next time we go Lights Out.